During a brutal home invasion, Casey is almost killed. Then a mysterious entity appears and offers to keep her alive. But at what price? Welcome to the Assorted Kinds independent filmmaking podcast. In this episode, we are talking about our film Feed Me Death with director Matt Devino.
Hello.
And producer Jana Devino.
Hi, guys.
And later we will be joined by a special guest lead actress, Olivia Day. I am Kevin Rosen-Quan, and I will be the host for today's episode. So, Feed Me Death. This is your... Is this the first or the second, right?
This was the second. Yeah, this was the second film that I did with Assorted Kinds.
Done with Assorted. Unlike the first one, this one's a horror film. No, they're all horror.
Yeah, they're all horror.
JK.
JK.
Banjanks is horror adjacent.
We don't know about
Horror
that yet.
adjacent. That's right. Matt's done. Matt's gonna become an all-star. Matt and Jana are definitely gonna be all-stars on this podcast because they've done a lot of stuff with Assorted Kinds, and it's all been awesome. But this one, Feed Me Death, where did the concept come from? Where did you first come up with the idea?
Okay, so I had done last one, Screaming, and that was like pretty meta horror. It wasn't properly a horror film. It was more of a film about horror films.
Almost like a Cabin in the Woods type.
Yeah, like
type
if you
thing?
could, it's along those lines in a short film form. And I've always been very interested in genre film, whether it's horror, sci-fi, or anything in that realm. And Assorted Kinds has definitely given me an outlet to play in that area. And so after we did last one, Screaming, I was like, I love that film, and I'm pretty proud of it, but I was like, I want to do a real horror film. I want to try and like actually scare people. And so I don't know. I just started brainstorming, had a bunch of ideas, and just had like a thought of what would you do if something offered to keep you alive forever, but you had to kill people.
So it's like a Deal with the Devil, a famous Deal with the Devil fable.
It's like that, or I didn't even realize it at the time, even until after I was done writing it, but it's like basically what a vampire is, even though the creature like itself isn't a vampire and it doesn't have the same rules as a vampire. It's the same sort of basic concept of would you give up your humanity for eternal life? And so that's where that came from.
Did you get a whole script out before presenting it at like a monthly meeting, or was this something where the idea came out first and then we like refined it?
I had written a script. This was before we even had the writing workshops.
Right, yeah.
And so I brought it to a meeting. It basically was between that film and I forget what else we did make, but it didn't get chosen in the first meeting. And then worked on it, brought it back. Didn't get chosen in that meeting.
Two
meetings.
This is what happens before. This is what I feel like precipitated the writers' meetings, is that we just kind of naturally would bring it in. If it wasn't ready, we would talk about every script that came in, and a lot of the discussion would be note related or that sort of thing. And then you'd have the option to take those notes, do whatever you want with it, and come back the next month.
Exactly. And there were other good scripts being presented. I think we were having 2, 3, even 4 scripts sometimes that were getting voted on in the same meeting. So, and the script needed work. I'm not saying it was perfect the first time I brought it in. And it's not perfect now, even after it's done. But yeah, I just really wanted to make it. I felt strongly about it. And my DP JR and I were like, all right, if it doesn't get chosen at this third meeting, we're just going to go make this, okay? Like we'll still bug all the Assorted Kinds people.
The Heads Up thread. If you guys have been listening to all the podcasts, you'll know that Heads Up was conceived in a similar way where, which I think is great, I'm the type of person that says, well, if it's not, if it doesn't get voted on, then I guess we won't do it. But it's so much better to take the opposite approach and be like, all right, well then we'll just do it, on the side at a different folks, different scale, whatever that means. So did we like take that threat so seriously that we were like, all right, you win?
I think probably.
Or was it sometimes you just you have to wait month after month and eventually you shoot whatever and we're looking for a script and you start to pull out an old chestnut.
Yeah, I mean,
well.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Right.
I mean, every time we brought it in, people were like, we're going to make this, just not this month. We really Nicole was really behind it. Nicole's like, oh, I love it. We're totally going to make this. This is badass. Right. And then actually talking to Chris the other day, he was like, yeah, your threat to just go make it outside of Assorted Kinds definitely got me to vote for it that month.
God, that's an interesting play. I might try to do that in the future. Interesting threat.
So yeah, so it got voted, and then it was like, how do we make this? Because it was a bigger production.
Was this our first 2-day?
Correct. Yeah, this was the first time we did it to the. So I, to just tell a little personal story. The one we did before this was Loved Ones. Technically, the one we shot before this was Loved Ones, and that was like the last one I made. I swore I was like, this is the last shoot we're doing without an assistant director. We need an assistant director on set. I don't know why I was so adamant about it. At the time,
I think because Loved Ones we went like 6 hours over on or something.
There was a lot of running around, and I've seen it happen a lot on indie projects, especially when you get behind for whatever reason. There's a lot of running around. Mistakes can happen, and sometimes those mistakes can damage things, and sometimes those mistakes can get people hurt. And that's really when I saw some folk. We had to run out and get a shot on the street, and we saw some folks running across the street, just kind of running willy-nilly across the street. And it wasn't a busy street or anything, but still, it got me thinking. I was like, all right, I'm gonna make a big stink about this and say that we have to have an AD on the next one. And so I said that, not even thinking, of course, that I would have to be the AD, because who's going to do it? The guy who's complaining about it. So I ended up offering to be the AD on this next shoot, which I don't know. I can't remember if I was a strong advocate of having it shot over 2 days, but I certainly remember feeling, based off the script, that
I think we both just off the bat were like, this is a 2-day shoot.
Yeah, JR sort of felt the same way too, the way he was conceiving the shot list and the time that it would take to do these setups.
Yeah, we had some complex shots in this. And I mean, the script was only like 7 pages, I think, which is shorter than a lot of stuff that we've done in one day. But the way I wanted to shoot it and the way JR agreed that he wanted to shoot it was a lot of long takes without cutting that required specific choreography that we had to get perfect. Otherwise, the shot would fail, and like literally doing entire scenes in one shot.
Sure, yeah. And that was, it ended up becoming, I remember that became taxing on JR because he was also the camera operator in addition to that. So some of those long takes, he's really carrying this big, steady rig all through the kitchen.
Yeah. We shot in our house, and well, it's a perfectly nice house. Having a large house in Los Angeles is cost prohibitive. So we, JR, we shot on his Alexa Mini with the Atlas Orion Anamorphics, which is not a small setup. Just those lenses are, at least a foot long and weigh a bunch of pounds, and then camera and AKS and all that stuff on top of that. You're talking a pretty heavy rig, and then sort of fly that thing on a gimbal, which we needed for these longer traveling shots. You have to use like a Movi Pro or Ronin 2, which is bigger and heavier than other gimbals, and so normally you'd run like an easy rig with that, but because of like the size of our doorway and our skinny kitchen, he couldn't fit through some of the doorways with the easy rig on, so we just had to manhandle it.
Yeah, it was.
And literally the first scene we shot in the kitchen is just this long, slow move through the kitchen following Olivia from a microwave to a window, and she moves about 10 feet, but the shot's maybe 45 seconds long, and by the end of that shot, your arms are about falling off. And JR operated 3 or 4 of them and then was like, I can't do this anymore. And then so then I took over operating a couple of them, and I was like, how did you do 3 or 4 of these?
Gosh. Strong men.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, so to not to get too deep into production, I wanted to kind of segue between the concept and pre-production. What were some of the things that you said you really wanted to tackle, specifically a horror film, something, that's actually going to scare people? I sort of like had a similar thing that I wanted to do back in college. Like I didn't have like a concept even as developed as yours. I just knew like I wanted to do like long shots that had a lot of tension, or I remember I specifically wanted to shoot a shot of like a cabinet opening to obscure the lens and then close the cabinet and there's something has appeared there. Like there's like those specific things that you want to try out. Were there other things aside from, we already mentioned that long opening shot? What were some of the other things that you wanted to try out?
I mean, mostly just, can I build tension in a film, in a short film? Like all of this Assorted Kinds stuff for me has just been like boot camp, post film school, post doing a ton of commercial work and not really practicing narrative and wanting to make features. And like, all right, every film I make with Assorted Kinds, I'm like, I need to hone this skill before I'm ready to go make a feature. So I like have written my 3 shorts I've done with Assorted Kinds with specific things in mind that I wanted to try and accomplish. I think also the interesting thing about, so like Last One Screaming is basically 2 people in a room talking and creating drama through dialogue. And then this one is, there's almost no talking in it. There's very little dialogue and it's all action. So it's like the polar opposite. And David Giardo and I had talked about this script a lot. Like, we keep doing all these scripts that are just 2 people talking, which is great, but like, filmmaking is visual storytelling. You should be able to make a really good film without any language in it at all. And so that was my goal with this one. It was like, make something scary that has an interesting, unique concept and do it mostly through storytelling with the camera and less dialogue.
So that's a lot of like stuff having to do with the technical ways of shooting it, and we actually haven't gotten into lighting it, but was there any sort of makeup stuff that you had in mind as you were going through pre-production? Because I know, like, I feel like a lot of stuff we were talking about was all camera and lighting related, but
yeah, when I was going through pre-production in the script, there's this entity that in the short it's like a supernatural thing that lives inside of you, almost like a demon or a spirit or something that I never really define exactly what it is, but it enters your body like a supernatural parasite, and then you need to feed it, and it will keep you alive if you feed it what it needs, which is death. It actually feeds off of the act of death. And if you don't feed it, then there's consequences for that. It starts feeding on you, and the physical signs of that would be like black veins, and like the extreme end of that, which we don't really see in the short, would be like your body basically starts rotting, like it's consuming your body. And so the physical manifestation of this thing is like an extreme version of, by appearance, what would happen to you if you didn't feed it for a long time.
Right, yeah.
And so we knew it needed to have these black veins covering its skin and just these jet black eyes and just be scary as shit when you saw it. Like, what is that? And, you know, without a ton of prosthetics or CG or anything, the best way to do that was through makeup. And our friend Caitlin came on.
Yeah, when did you meet up with? So Caitlin Ronsky has been on a couple of different projects, but I think this was her first project she did with us. Is that right?
No, she did Last One Screaming, which is actually how I met her. Yeah,
nice.
Which is a totally.
So this is the first time I worked with her.
Yeah, it was. Well, she covered Camilla in Blood in Last One Screaming. Mm-hmm. It was also a much simpler job.
Right.
But I liked working with her on that, and she was like, "Yeah, I got this," and just kind of trusted her, and she ran with it.
She got it.
Yeah, she sure did.
A big endeavor.
Jana, you were in the garage a lot while she was doing makeup. Like, I was busy doing other stuff for the most part, and like pop in here and there to like be like, yeah, that looks great, and then run back to set. Like, what was that process like where you were there while she was doing it? Can you describe that?
Long.
Right, it was literally happening. She was working
Hours.
on one person or another literally all day long.
Yeah.
For both days.
Mike, the entity, was in her chair for, like 3 hours because he did have a little bit of prosthetics, but he definitely had a lot of the airbrush vein work. I don't even know what the terms are, but she worked magic.
Right, yeah, she had some sort of a, I don't know.
Yeah, compressor with the,
exactly, a compressor connected to
for the veins. And then
airbrush makeup.
our Olivia, our actress, was there for quite a while as well, so...
And then our what's his? I'm forgetting.
Oh,
his
Neil.
name. Neil as well had a little bit of work done to him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was allergic. We found out to the to the contact.
Oh, to the contacts. That's right.
Yes. So we had the old school contacts, which I think are awesome. That
the full black. You can't see any white in your eyes.
We had to someone went on a pretty big scavenger hunt to try to find that, didn't they? Who was it?
Oh yeah, I think it might have been Nicole.
I thought that's what I want to say. It was either Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole usually saves the day. So
to find these sorts of things, but I mean, you'll hear. I remember either hearing or reading a lot of behind the scenes stuff over the years that anytime an actor has to put one of those big contacts in their eyes, it's always just like a miserable time
guy.
for them. But fortunately, he's supposed to be not super comfortable, I suppose, anyway. So
exactly.
It helps.
So we just told him to use it, stop complaining, and just use it.
Yeah, deal with it.
Thank you, Neil.
And Neil was awesome.
Jana, this was the first film that you were the main producer on with Assorted Kinds, right?
No, mine was.
Choices.
Oh, Choices.
Yeah,
was.
that was
Nice.
Yeah.
But it probably certainly takes another level when you're doing it at your house.
Yes, that too.
Then you just like become like, even if you weren't like the official producer on it, you'd be the official producer on it because it's done in your house.
Don't put that there. Take your shoes off.
That's right. We had a booty policy. You could shoot short films and still not destroy your homeowners' homes.
Yeah.
Was there anything like, especially during pre-production, that you remember that was like a challenge?
Yeah.
Or?
Casting was really, really intense. We had asked for video submissions. I think we casted at Hollywood Casting as well for a couple days. But we actually have an internal kind of friend of a member, if you will, Adriana, who also helped with casting for Choices.
Right, which was no fewer than 14 actors.
Exactly.
That we needed
So she did not have any rest for the weary.
Yeah.
But it was I know Matt also struggled with just being able to decide who was best for the role between Olivia and Adriana. And it literally came down to look. And I just remember how intense that was.
Interesting.
Just seeing their video submissions. So that I definitely had a front seat to a very rough decision.
Did you guys ever actually do like live auditions? Was it all through video stuff?
We did some live auditions and didn't find anyone that we liked. So then it fell back to video auditions. And Adriana, like Jana had mentioned, was helping us cast it, but then sent in an audition video, which we weren't expecting. And then we were kind of blown away by it. Just like, whoa, I've never really seen Adriana act before.
Well,
like, I knew she was an
scary,
actor, but
very
sort of
intense.
way.
She's like such a bubbly, fun person that you're like,
Exactly.
what happened to her?
yeah. And also the original version of the script, if you've seen the short film, there's a scene in the bathroom where Casey's looking in the mirror and she's like discovering these veins on her. Originally,
Right.
the entity was speaking to her back and forth. That's when she first speaks to it. And my original plan was to just stay locked off on the mirror and have the actress going back and forth between her personality and the entity's
Right.
personality. So they needed to be able to like
a la Venom.
play the crazy.
Which I haven't seen.
I haven't seen it.
But I
Everyone keeps saying, "Oh,
You're
this
all
is a
on
lot
that.
like Venom," and I'm like, "Well, I haven't seen Venom, so."
Oops.
I'm already sleeping with a nightlight. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
So it came down to Olivia and Adriana, who both did the best job of in their audition, going back and forth between their character and the entity's character in the same scene without
Wow.
cutting,
That's cool.
which it was really cool in the auditions. I don't remember exactly why I got rid of it. I think maybe it was probably I wanted to like embody the creature somehow and like show that there was like a thing that wasn't part of them. And so I disembodied it from them. Be interesting to go back and reshoot that and see if it worked. Anyway,
Right. I mean, as far as like keeping it not as confusing, considering
Right.
like has such a short period of time to convey
I think that's
that
what it
information,
was. Yeah.
to just physically have this thing there.
I think that was a note in one of the meetings. Yeah. But yeah, Adriana and Olivia both brought their crazy game, and it's like, wow, which one of them do I pick? And I'd met Adriana before. Obviously, she'd been part of Assorted Kinds stuff before, and then we met Olivia in person. Just kind of chatted with them about the project, and Olivia was super excited about it, and I just racked my brain for a day, and just my gut said go with Olivia. And so we cast Olivia, and we were off to shooting.
Yeah. So you must have done. So some people, like for instance, with me and Jeremy on choices, we basically had the month to figure it out, and there wasn't too much back and forth, to be honest. But you and JR had been working on it or talking about it for a while, to the point where you were like, "We're just going to shoot it on our own." So
Yeah.
so he must have had a pretty good idea of what he wanted to shoot.
Yeah, I think this was the first film that JR shot with Assorted Kinds, right?
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
So JR is a good friend of Jana and mine. He has been for a few years now. We actually met on another thing I directed. It was a short documentary called Triumph in the Desert, which is about our buddy Nate, who owns a motorcycle shop in Long Beach, and he takes these 1960s Triumph motorcycles and kits them out to race them in the desert.
Nice.
And
Sounds like
so
a fun doc to work on.
it was cool.
Did he do camera on that, or was he a DP?
So he
on
was
it?
the DP on that, which was, I was so used to just shooting my own stuff. But
Right.
our friend David, our mutual friend David, who's produced like all of my commercial work, was like, "Hey, my buddy JR just got this new camera and he wants to try it out. Would you be interested in like having him come down and shoot?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like what camera?" And he's like, "Oh, it's an Alexa Mini." I was like, "Yeah, he can come down." Because this was like right when the Alexa Mini came out. We were like,
yeah.
I was like, I want to see this thing in action. This is gonna
Yeah.
be cool. And like, he brought full crew with him and everything. This originally was gonna be like me and David with like a Sony A7S or something.
Right, yeah, as these things often can be.
Yeah, and then he brought full crew with him. Hazed up this motorcycle shop, lit everything through a half-open garage door and then a window with a single bounce, and it was beautiful, man. It's still like one of my favorite things I've ever directed, and a lot of it has to do with JR and what he
Nice.
did on
I
it.
do remember seeing a couple little clips and stuff from that, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so we became good friends after that. And just like we'd get beers and burgers at Hanano's all the time. And then I'd been like, dude, you should come get involved with this Assorted Kinds thing. He's like, oh yeah, it seems cool. He actually gaffed Last One Screaming, but didn't like officially get involved with Assorted Kinds until Feed Me Death. And yeah, so we've been talking about it for a while. We were both like, oh, we want to shoot it anamorphic. We'll we went and did lens tests, and looked at a bunch of different anamorphic lenses, and they had Olivia's here.
Oh, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna have our special guest, Olivia Day. It's Olivia. Welcome back. We now are joined by Olivia Day, our lead actress. Hey, how's it going?
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Of
we
course.
were just talking about it's a perfect timing because we were just finishing up talking about the casting. How did you even hear about this? Who
This
told
was
you
when I
about it?
first started acting, so it was like, I don't know, almost a year and like 8 months ago. It was like almost a year and a half ago, and I was just self-submitting, and I literally just saw it on Actors Access, and I was like, oh, horror, perfect, because I'm evil, so I'll fit right in. so I just I don't know,
Perfect
submitted, and then I submitted a tape, and I actually kind of knew. I was like, for some reason, it just felt super at home, and I was really confident about it. It was like I just had a feeling, and then sure enough, they wanted to have a director's meeting, and I remember being so nervous. You guys were like, "Do you want some tea?" And I was like, "No, I'm okay." And I was like, it was like my first director. I was so nervous, and then they were awesome and amazing, and then they're like, "Okay, you have the role." I think a day later, and I was thrilled.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then how far before our shooting did you know you had the role? Was it like pretty
like 2 weeks or something?
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, everything's such a quick turnaround on this. It's like I wouldn't be surprised if you were like, it was like the day before, and then I went and did it.
No, it was about 2 weeks, but I
Nice.
liked it. We had like enough time to prepare.
Awesome.
But,
Yeah. Do you want to talk about? Because I know we didn't really, and this very often happens because of such a quick turnaround. We don't have time to do a lot of rehearsals and that sort of thing. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you did to prepare before we actually got to the shoot?
Well, so because it was like my first really film and first kind of like diving in with acting, I actually worked with like my acting coach, and I was like, please, like I really want you to be on set with me, and like I don't know. So I just in class would do like different scenarios of like how to get to kind of like a disturbed like meltdown place. And honestly, like it wasn't hard for me. Like I could just do that on a daily basis. I just like melt down. But
I mean, we are females in 2000 and what year? It's very easy to have a meltdown.
I guess so, but I mean, having a meltdown's one thing. Doing it on cue in front of a camera and a crew and
20
everything
times.
is a whole other
Well,
beast.
so we were kind of blessed because Sherry Shaw was my acting coach at the time, and she actually worked on all the Saw movies and was the on-set coach for the Saw movies. And so they actually got to like experience her, and she came out for a day and like
she was on set. Oh man, if I had known that, I would have just picked her brain all night. She would have hated me.
Oh, she would have loved to come on the podcast.
I'm so curious. I was just saying
have her on
earlier
as a special
how
guest.
that's something that's I've always been curious about. I was talking with Matt about that. As a director working with actors and getting them to that space, it's just like something I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like comedy stuff or like high concept sort of stuff. So like,
yeah, it's funny because like Matt was very hands on when she wasn't there, and then he kind of like let her do her thing with me when she was there, just because obviously she's been doing it for so long, and it was kind of like cool to see her in action. So I think they had a good repertoire. Like they didn't step on each other's toes, so that was kind of nice. I don't know how they figured it out. It was like unspoken. I was like, this is what's gonna happen, and they just knew.
Yeah.
I was green, however, so I was the one that was like, "What the fuck's going on?" Like I don't know what to do. Or like it made me panic, and I was just really on edge, and I was like, "Oh god!" I was just so terrified that I went into overdrive of just like, like type A personality, being like, "I don't know what to do," like trying to control everything. Now I know that you just have to like go with the flow and relax, and it'll come, and that actually makes acting much easier. But it was a learning process.
That anxiety was probably pretty good for the character, though.
It was.
Right?
Yes, it was really great for the character. Like I remember the first scene. Thank God we filmed like the easiest scene first. So I was like, oh, thank you. But I just had to get a microwave out of the microwave. I brought one out of the microwave, but I had to look anxious. But I was already so anxious that this worked perfectly. So I was like, just I don't know, pulling it out. Yeah, it was good.
Funny.
Yeah.
And then we also were talking a little bit about the makeup stuff too. So that's like a whole process. We did stuff with Mike, which we didn't even mention. Mike is for you All Stars. Mike is was the waiter in my short who has his head
From the neck down.
We only shot him from the neck down through my whole short. He had to work all day, and we never showed his face once. And I asked him if that was okay. He
He's
was
like, this is great for my reel.
super good sport about it. But I was like, man, it's so much funny with that. So we went immediately from not showing his face to then putting him in front of a makeup artist and then turning into a crazy demon monster.
Yeah.
But we had to do a lot of similar effects with you.
Yeah. Well, I thank God didn't have as much as the poor demon because I felt bad for him. That's got to be irritating. But it was actually pretty simple. I mean, it was simple to wear it.
Right.
It was not simple for her to put it on. She was working really hard and getting the lines right and airbrushing it. And she was professional. She knew exactly what she was doing. And they banged it out actually pretty quick. It took an hour and a half.
Awesome.
Which is surprising.
Yeah.
It was hard to get off though.
Oh, God.
I was definitely in the shower, what the fuck? I was
That's
in the
right.
grocery store and I'm like, I swear I'm not dying.
Well, that's the problem, right? That was a logistical
to
thing
put
we
you
had
in
to
the
figure
shower,
out. We're
yeah.
like, this literally has to stay on in a shower. So I can't imagine how do you get something off that has to stay on
Mineral.
in water?
I don't even know what I
guess.
used, but it was
Sand.
definitely not sand.
Right. Just sand.
Fucking
Just
power
sandpaper.
sander.
I mean, it got it off, right?
Yeah, just like lasers like they do for tattoo removal. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how it
Yeah, it
works.
was actually tattoos.
Well,
Yeah, they didn't tell me.
That would make
Tattoo
it
gun in the
easier.
garage.
that would make it easier.
I still have them on.
That's cool.
It's just
Yeah.
part of the look.
Yeah, I roll with it now.
Yeah, we were lucky we had your guys' garage as sort of a permanent makeup station. That was essentially
Yeah,
being
there's some good
big
behind the
used
scenes
all day
photos of that
long.
garage.
Right.
People getting sprayed up in there.
Yeah.
all day long.
Do you want to let's talk a little bit about, you were talking about how we kind of needed to put you through the ringer a bit on this one. I remember when we were working on a couple scenes, especially the bedroom one. It was pretty technical about what I needed to happen within certain beats for it to work in the film.
Yeah.
And it seemed for me, when we first started working together, you definitely really get in the space and just kind of, you were going with it, and which is great because it felt real. But then I needed you to take that feeling and that headspace you were in, and then also hit beats and marks on top of that work, because we were doing these long takes.
Yeah.
That I didn't want to cut the camera because horror's all about building tension, and I feel like every time you cut, you're ruining the tension.
Right, you're restarting a bit.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember it because I remember getting so frustrated at the time because I was such a great actor. I didn't know it was actually a gift to be. It kind of frustrated and used that to harness your mental breakdown. I just did. I was so new. I didn't know. So in my mind, I'm like, why is he doing this to me? I just want to get it right. And I'm trying to cry. But he was like, no, you got that. He was really he knew that I had it. I didn't know that I had it, but he knew. So he pushed me and we got it. And I'm actually really thankful for it. But I do remember him being you have to hit these beats. You have to sit up. You have to lay down. You have to cry. I had to do all of it. And it was a lot to remember.
Right.
But then it just worked so well on screen. I'm like, thank God, we got through that. But Sherry was across from me holding my leg at one point, touching me so that I could
Right.
remember to be emotional while also I was listening to him kind of tell me what to do. So
Yeah, it's just so much to juggle. It's so much to juggle.
For me, it's I had the movie so clearly in my head way before we even shot it. So it was a matter of getting you to give the performance that I knew you could give, but then also having it be exactly what I saw in my head at the same time.
Exactly.
And so that was because each scene played into each other, and if the beats at the end of the scene didn't match the beat that it would go into in the next scene, the whole film would fall apart. And that's not something that you could see in your head. It's
Right.
it's only in here. It's only in my head. And I gotta get you and everyone else to do it just right. Otherwise it fails. And I think that's the challenge for me. That's what I love about directing is trying to make this thing that this movie. Jana just directed her first film. And I kept telling her, see the movie in your head, know the movie in your head, watch the movie in your head before you go on set. You should be watching that movie in your head over and over and over again, so you know it like the back of your hand. It's
it's
I've
really
seen
smart advice.
Yeah,
Yeah, but then see, for me, I I end up getting frustrated though if I have like such a very specific thing that I want and it's just like not achievable with what you have, or I don't know, like it's not even like to make it seem like you don't have enough or something, but like even if like inspiration strikes and something new presents itself on the day, it's like hard for me to like change gears and embrace that. And I know like the more technical something is, the harder it is to like, kind of re-steer around that.
And you have to have like a good DP and a good team that knows how to kind of like fit those quick, like spur of the moment shots in and still stay on schedule. It's like the dream team, you know, if you can do that and then still stay on schedule, that's great. But yeah, I've definitely worked on sets where they're either really rigid, but I've also worked on sets where they're just so quick that they can just kind of fit in these shots. And then they're like these happy accidents. It's like they thought it was going to be one way, but then they see when you're in it, oh, this is actually better. So they just say, fuck it and go what they know is right in their hearts. And
was there anything like that on our shoot where we like really did like a left turn on something? I can't remember.
What about the thing the crane?
The thing.
Well, that was more of like that was probably the hardest thing for you.
I loved that scene though.
Oh my gosh.
She's a masochist. I genuinely had an actual mental breakdown because when we were done shooting, I just literally was still on the floor crying. And I was like, what just happened? And like, now the cameras are gone, but I'm left here like vulnerable.
Yeah, right.
We literally started going to set the next scene up. And so what happened was there's this shot after the whole attack in the living room. And Olivia is laying there bleeding out.
Right.
And the shot I wanted was supposed to be like a crane straight down while the camera rotated 180 degrees into a close-up. So she was supposed to end up upside down after starting right side up in the frame. Yeah. And then the monster's face would enter frame as a jump scare and a reveal. And we were having the damnedest time with this stupid crane head that JR had. And it was like he had like
big.
four axes that he had to be controlling by himself.
And he's the most patient person on the planet. So
and we're also like, Olivia, get in this headspace where you're dying, and the crane kept fucking up.
I know.
We did it like 6 times or something, and it'd just be like,
a lot.
Nope, fucked up, back to 1. Nope, fucked up, back to 1.
I remember that was like, I was getting pissed. I was like, oh my fucking, because I'm like, I actually had like legit emotional breakdowns, like not just like actory, like kind of there. I was like in it, and I was like, how many more times? Like I'm dying here.
Yeah, I remember we finished it, like we got the shot. And we started moving gear to the next shot, and you just sat there on the floor crying. I know. And you were like out of your mind.
You gotta like get out of it.
You
can't just immediately come out of it. You gotta like
actress down.
But I went up to you and I was like, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Thank you for that." I was like, "Okay, great."
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Wild ride.
Yeah.
I just needed somebody to care. It's like. But no, everybody did care, but I just didn't get it. Like I was so new. It was so funny to look back on that and just be like, everything to me was so dramatic. Like every moment was so dramatic.
Movie for you.
Yeah. So future reference, like with a complicated movie, I would say probably work with somebody not as green, even if they have the talent.
But that's all. That's what this
again.
group is all about. I mean, like it's crazy. I mean, you know, I'm flattered to think that you thought we were all like super professional folks, but like we were all kind of like, you know, we're all learning our way around our own crafts as well. So it's and I think the nice thing is it becomes a safe space because of that. You know, that from all the way up from producers all the way down to the PAs, everybody is like supporting each other and there to learn and help each other out. And so you can get away with doing, I think, some amazing stuff like this with people who are like, we're all like pretty green when it comes to like Matt was saying, you know, like this is sort of a new narrative space that he wanted to go into. So even he was like learning, we were all learning a new thing. I was the AD for the first time. It was my first assistant directing gig, trying to like
and that's
schedule all
one.
that stuff together. So we were all doing it. And I think we all hopefully felt supported for sure.
It's so funny because you guys didn't seem green at all. Like everyone kind of knew. I mean, I could
acting.
definitely tell that we were like figuring it out as we went a little bit, but it's also like everyone knew like their roles and did a really good job. And you guys had all known each other. And
Well, yeah, we've all been
we've
all been working in film for most of us about a decade or more, but it's just not necessarily directing narrative with a big crew or anything. Like I did one other film, last one, Screaming, with Assorted Kinds, and all my other narrative stuff I directed was like crews of 3 or 4 people and
Wow.
shooting on a DSLR. But I directed commercial stuff with big crews, so it was like I knew how to direct a crew, and I had enough experience with actors, and you just put the two together. And then
Yeah, it's
Right.
like a really interesting blend of like people who are like JR. I mean, like JR is a professional DP. Like he,
Right.
you know, he really knew.
he directs
we really
huge
knew what he was
commercials.
doing,
Yeah,
what
I
he
mean,
was
and
doing.
DP's huge commercials. Yeah.
And then we still had people. Was Jaron on that? I was trying. to
That
think
was
of,
how
like,
we met.
brand new folks who were
That's
just
how we met
kind of
Caden.
peeing.
Caden. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
was
From
their first
Facebook,
time.
right?
Yeah.
I love them.
So we were like down to the wire. We needed a couple ACs. None of our ACs were available, and like went on the.
happens.
There's a Facebook group like Camera, AKS, and Assistants. It's like you can sell stuff to each other or just chat and stuff. And I was like, hey, we're doing this short film. We need some ACs. Who's available?
Wow.
And Caden was like, oh, I'll come help. And they were like super green. I didn't realize how green they were ahead of time. They're like, yeah, I can. I was like, we're shooting on Alexa with Anamorphics. Like, you can handle it. They're like, sure. I shut up. And they're like, what do I do?
That's so
Okay.
No. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But it was good. They learned a lot, and Caden's become like a staple of Assorted
Super.
Kinds,
Yeah,
which is
a lot of
really
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, I love that you gave somebody
Yeah.
a chance and to prove themselves, and then they stood up and did
Yeah.
it, and I know that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
People don't get chances like that often in this
It's
industry.
true. You really
Totally.
don't. Also speaking to JR's patience on that regard too. Like he's totally open to having people from who totally know what they're doing to people who are just getting into it, and he's happy to like work with anybody and everybody.
That's beautiful because that's the only thing I don't like about the industry is how
Yes.
exclusive it is to get to where you need to go,
Yes.
and it's a fight. You have to claw your way to the top. If you don't know, I don't know someone at the top, but
Yeah.
right?
you know.
Yeah. It's nice to like. I mean, it's important to have to work really hard for something in order
Definitely.
to get such a great product. But it's also you do have times where people just like get somewhere because they know somebody or whatever, and that stuff I'm not super into. I'm more into people supporting each other and helping out. Taking chances on new folks to see
Yes.
what new stuff comes out there. It also keeps
Definitely.
things from getting really stagnant too. Getting boring.
For sure.
What else is there is there anything else in production land? to
production
chat
I remember
about-
the
to
blood
chat about?
thing. That blood.
Which blood thing? I feel like there were a bunch of
No,
blood
wait.
things. Which
Because
one
Can you
is
please
that?
be specific
The
about
slide-
which blood?
the slattering of the blood like on set, the production
still on
design
the
because it's still
ceiling.
on the walls. Like that's how bad it was because like we were.
Oh, it's
she
still
was-
there,
And,
Olivia.
and it got
my
all over me,
gosh.
but it's like, and then we had to wipe it off, and then
When
get
you
all
were
over
stabbing Jana.
Me. When I was
Yeah,
stabbing,
you
him.
killed Jana in the movie.
Yeah.
I killed you.
Do you remember when
I
the
killed-
first? This was the first one that I acted in or did
Yes,
anything
you were
in,
so
and
nervous about acting.
you stabbed me, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, it's over," and everyone's like, "We didn't cut yet," and we had to run it all over again.
Oh my
I'm like, yep.
gosh.
I know she looks at me.
I
and
thought
she
it
goes,
was
"Is it done?" I was like, "No."
Her eyes got so big. She's
Oh
like,
my God.
That was hysterical. You were so nervous, but you were like, you were just sitting there eating dinner, but I could tell you
it was a really intense scene, Olivia.
But then it looked really good on screen. I was like, that actually looked really good. Like, it was
Yeah,
pulled
that's
off
another
well.
one of like Matt's like demanded wonders where it's like this is all gonna play on one shot too. It's gonna be this
Like
big
a long,
wide,
minute long.
and you're gonna have a whole
slow
dinner
push.
conversation.
And blood's just everywhere. And I remember you being like, don't get it on the walls, don't get it on. And it was just all
Oh
over.
man, yeah, we
walls.
did.
Oh,
I
well.
mean, yeah,
Magic erasers.
yeah. It's funny. We
It's
like
still
covered
on
the
the
whole-
ceiling fan right
we
above
covered the
where
whole
we sit.
ground with
living room.
visqueen. We had all sorts of plastic on the ground,
Yeah.
but we didn't think about it flying all over the
Nope.
ceiling.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice
gives the house some
remembrance.
character,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That's
I love
why.
it.
That's why you haven't seen my house on any of the Assorted Kinds shorts.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
You guys have real
We
blood
shot-
or
We shot Jana's short 2 weekends ago, and her house still looks like the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, maybe
We just
we're
haven't had
sitting
any time to
still.
put it back together, yeah.
We've
Oh,
been
it was
busy.
apocalyptic short. Oh,
No,
No,
no.
Thank
Just
goodness.
just stuff is everywhere.
Oh, and
Yeah.
like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
our
a
couch
mess.
was in the
It's
garage,
just a
and
mess. Well, I learned from you guys' mistakes, and on my last thing that I shot, my production designer found these like pools of blood that are just made out of vinyl. There's just a vinyl circle that looks exactly like a pool. You just plop it down on the ground, and it just looks like a pool of blood.
Genius.
So we could just throw it down and throw a body on there. We stole some shots because I didn't want to, pour a bunch of blood out in the middle of the street and then like hope we didn't get caught by the police or whatever. So this final thing was great.
I gotta get me one of those.
I have plenty because my
Fantastic.
production, like any good production designer, he got me like 5 of them. I only used 1 of them, so we've got blood pools if you want them.
Blood
Love
pools.
it. That's for your feature.
Yeah.
For the blood pool feature.
Blood pool, the feature.
What else? We shot this. Obviously this is a horror movie that's shot at night, so we had to shoot
2 night shoots.
We had to shoot splits. I mean, that was also part of. Was it splits or was it all just fully night?
Well, there were splits.
I tried to schedule it so we started somewhat
Saturday,
in the daytime, but yeah, essentially we knew that this was all taking place at night, so we were gonna have to shoot it overnight. We shot it over 2 nights. That's
and then
crazy.
some people
Went
went
late.
to work on Monday.
Yeah, some people went to work.
7:30.
I remember you. Yeah,
Oh
you were like,
my
I have to be at work
gosh.
tomorrow.
Yeah, you went to bed
Some
and like
people
me
left.
and JR
It
and
was nice seeing
James
you.
I remember. Yeah, I made it.
hung out and had whiskey
I
until like 4 in the
remember-
morning.
I
Yeah.
remember that you were like, "Can you want some whiskey?" And I was like, "Fuck, sure."
Yeah,
I like took a shot of whiskey,
What
but then I was like, "I have to actually drive, so like I can't stay." But I wanted to. I was so ready.
Oh my god! Yeah, that's what you want to do when you're done with a huge
Yeah.
12-hour day. You need a
2
shot
12-hour
of
days.
something.
Just like, here's the whiskey.
It's so funny watching everybody kind of be like tense, like on set or whatever, and then all of a sudden, as soon as it's done, everyone literally is just like a rager.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
No one does it as crazy as the film business. Like
That's Jana's thing
working
too. It's
12
Jana's
hours.
tradition to do the
Yeah.
whiskey shot at
Yeah.
rap.
We did that. We
That's
brought
right.
a
She started
bottle.
it.
So
Ooh, I love
just
that.
to talk about another movie, Choices was shot in a restaurant bar stage
yeah.
set. And we washed all the shot glasses that were used as props, and we used them to
Oh, I didn't
cheers.
realize that
Yeah.
that's what we used to cheers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And there might have been
Awesome.
some
Thanks
of
for
us that drank whiskey during the shoot.
That's all right. It was watered
On the
down.
first day. On the first day, I was a little nervous. I was like, I just need like a little
That's
shot.
why it's called liquid courage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why they do
true.
that.
Now I don't need it anymore. Thank God.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
But it was definitely nerve-wracking. Yeah, it was helpful during those nervous times.
Do you want to go into post production?
Yeah, sure.
And talk about the edit. I mean, you're kind of known as our all-star editor. So was this like tough for you to edit? Was it pretty breezy?
It's pretty easy to edit.
Yeah,
for me.
right.
I mean, honestly, I had a rough cut in like a day because
Right.
there's like maybe 20 cuts in the whole movie, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Like-
that was always how it was conceived.
There's probably more than that. There's probably more like 30 or 40 cuts, but it's all the cutting happens in the attack scene.
Right.
Before that, it's like there's like 6 shots and then the attack scene, and then there's like 20 shots that happen for the attack scene. Then after that, it's all single long takes for
Right.
everything else. So all of the second half of the movie happens in 4 or 5 long takes.
Did you find then that you had trouble choosing a take, or
No,
wish that you
you
had
just
an edit
kinda
somewhere
knew.
that you could kind of combine takes together, or
No, that definitely wasn't possible to combine any of the takes for the
Right,
long
yeah.
takes. It was like there's usually between 1 or 2 of them for each scene, and then it was usually the last one we got was the best one, and then we moved
Right.
on.
yeah.
Except for the one that we almost destroyed you on the floor. We used the first one that we got, and then
No, you did
yeah,
not.
we did.
Okay, no, we not.
Why did you tell
I could have gone my whole life without knowing that.
tell her that?
No, I'm kidding, but that's actually amazing. I love that. You're like, the first one,
gosh.
you just never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that was actually probably when I was the most raw too, and like actually in it. So I'm not mad about that.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, you never
Yeah.
know. You never know. Some things, fall off the truck and they're just right, and sometimes you have to like get into it, refine it, or do a bunch of different. I
Yeah.
feel like we didn't do a lot of like different like versions of things though. Like
No, it
we
was
had it
just like I
pretty
knew what
dialed
I
in.
wanted, and it was just like get it
right.
right.
Yeah, just get it technically like just hit all the boxes at once in one take, and then once you know
Yeah.
you got it, move on.
It's so funny because on most of the features that I've shot, we really only get 2 takes, like 1 to 2 takes. So it's like if you don't nail it, like you really, that's it. Like, sorry, you're just gonna look like shit on screen. So you really have to be like a good actress, or your shit's gonna get cut. Because I there's no like 7 or 8 takes unless it's just like the climax and like it's just such a big moment. But I really have not had a director give me more than about 1 or 2.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's probably definitely stressful. Is that because it's like lower budget indie stuff, or are you doing?
I think it's because it is a lower budget. Obviously, there's not millions of dollars to take your time. I mean, everyone's on borrowed time essentially. So yeah, I think it is a lot to do with lower budget, but I also think it's the director just on lower things, like they have to know what they want, so everything's like storyboarded out. Like there's like they're going by the books more so than I think more of kind of like a creative director that has more room.
Right.
So they just stick to it, and honestly, like if you're a good actor, you really need 1 or 2. I mean, I can usually get it out within 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting. Man. Yeah, I'm working on an indie feature right now, and that's supposed to be shot in like 16 days. So you can imagine how many takes all those
That's actually
actors
like
get.
kind of a lot though. Like I've shot indie features in 8 days.
That's
Were they like
crazy.
12 hours?
They were like 18-hour
trying to give
days.
us 10-hour days.
Oh my gosh.
And they're trying to be nice and
That's
not,
really nice.
not break our backs.
Yeah.
But it becomes a thing where you gotta, you don't have a lot of time to play around.
No.
Which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
You want to fool around?
Yeah,
wanna
I
play
mean that was my problem in choices. So the first thing that I did was the same scene, one scene, but it was done by 7 different couples, so 14 different actors, but 7 times.
I saw that.
So I only got to do maybe 1 or 2 run throughs with each couple, and I was like, great. I just met you, but we gotta go. We got another couple coming in. Sorry. And like, I never felt like, I don't know. I never felt dissatisfied, but I never felt like, great, I got it.
Right.
We've exhausted all the fun. We can move on. I was always like, well, that's our time. So.
Well, it's so funny. Were those direct offers, or did you see their casting tape?
That was also through all casting tape stuff.
Well, that's good. Like at least you had that, because I worked on Incision, which is the feature film, and I was a direct offer. Didn't have any. I literally did jump on set. They put me in the role and they're like, go. So I did not even have any direction beforehand. So I just had to kind of go with it. And I made a strong choice too, because I was a psychopath. And so I know I have not yet to play it. I haven't played a nice role yet.
Hey, do what you're good with.
Yeah, but it's so funny because like he was just like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. Moving on. And I was like, but you didn't even see my casting tape. It was 1 take, but like he was confident in it. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember doing the audition tape for us? Because you remember the original audition, we were talking about this earlier, was you had to play yourself and the monster talking to yourself.
Yeah.
And the script ended up changing because we were like, we don't know if this is going to be clear for the audience in a short film, what's happening.
Right.
So we changed it, but do you remember what that was like for you to do?
Oh yeah, I do remember it. I remember having to be completely. It was I think I actually cheated and set up a mirror behind the camera, so I was actually looking in the mirror.
Smart.
So I wasn't. So I kind of knew what I looked like, so I could play with that more.
That's great.
You know, you're not just guessing like I hope I'm hitting the mark. And then also when you start to see yourself break down, it spirals into an actual breakdown. So that was really nice. So then I would break down and get really really sad and then terrified, and then I could like kind of come back and become evil. It's all in the eyes, and like being able to look at myself really helped. But I had a mirror behind the camera.
Nice.
Whoa, that's
cool.
a good trick. I like
Freak the
that.
hell out of me.
So I got the part.
I don't know what. Like it just came so natural. I actually did it in 1 take. Really? I did not do it over. I did it in 1 take. I just let the camera roll. I don't even think I cut it, and I just like sent it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I nailed that. Yeah.
Great.
Well, we went through all the casting videos, and like both of us were watching them together, and afterwards we just kind of like looked at each other like, that freaked the shit out of me.
I've got goosebumps. Yeah.
I love it. Thank
Still
you.
not sleeping.
Still in my brain.
The last thing I want to touch on with post before we could talk about distribution or festivals was the score.
My friend Kenny Gray, who is a good friend from back in New Hampshire, did the score. He did the score for Last One Screaming too.
Right.
He's just one of those like savants that's like too good at what he
Genius.
does. You just like hand him the film, and then like the next day there's an entire score and it's
What?
perfect, and you're
Wow.
like, okay,
What a
great.
find.
We did go when I edited this. I did use the score from Alien as temp score.
I'm a big fan of using temp scores from existing movies or
Totally.
music or whatever.
It's
whatever
great. You
think.
need to like set that pace and that vibe.
It helps a lot. Yeah.
And so gave that to Kenny and was like, take this as like rough vibe, but do your own thing. And he did that. And I think we did one round of revisions, and he came back with what he got, and it was great.
Amazing.
He's just good like that. And then
It was really original, I thought.
yeah,
It was kind of campy. Like I wasn't expecting it. It was like I would have never put that with it, but then I was like, this is literally amazing. Like this is perfect. So he really found something original.
Right.
Or you directed him to something really original. I don't know. It was awesome.
it was mostly him with a little bit of notes, and
Yeah.
then that was it. Like I think he had like a drum track behind the bathroom stuff that I was like,
Right. Yeah.
get rid of that
Jumanji.
timpani.
Yeah. Too much.
But yeah, and then my sister Steph did the poster, which is really cool. There's like that great illustration of Olivia.
It's such a.
that was my favorite thing in the whole
It's such a.
world.
I mean, do
Oh
you
my
guys
God.
remember this? Well, now they made a movie based on it. The Scary Stories to Tell in the
Yeah,
Dark.
yeah.
It really feels like that vibe,
Yeah.
which I mean, like, is like a legendary,
This is so fucking cool.
weird illustrator that like kind of got under your skin and like did things in a very sort of strange and unnatural way.
Like that was my
She's-
hair.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that is me. Like
She's
this
a
is so
genius.
cool.
Yeah.
She's super good. She's like me. She's really into horror. We grew
Yeah.
up watching horror
We
together.
want to make her script.
yeah, she's
wrote
got a really
children's-
cool
children's
children's
horror
horror
book.
book. Yeah.
Horror
no,
book,
I
yeah.
didn't know
hell
about
yeah.
that. Yeah, definitely.
What's it called, Jana?
Got to present that.
You remember?
No, I don't. Do you?
It's called the Nothing Man.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Nothing Man.
The Nothing Man. It's like
We'll
the
let that
Nothing
sit
Man
there.
is coming to get you, and it's
Oh,
like
it sounds
you're
like-
reading
It's a
the
children's book.
Yeah,
terrifying.
it seems
It is
like a.
It's way
like a
scarier than
Grimm's-
anything
a
I've ever
Grimm's
come up
fairy
with.
tale
What?
kind of
Yeah.
I
thing.
need to read this.
The
Yeah.
illustrations are beautiful too.
But yeah, she's on Instagram at Steph Devino, and you can check out her stuff there. She does tons of crazy horror inspired illustrations, and
So
sells
a
them
lot of
online,
our
and
illustrations are like horror themes.
all of them,
specific?
yeah,
Oh,
basically.
nice.
It's a lot of
Cool.
like fairy tale feeling stuff of like
Mm.
like a maiden in the woods with like a skeleton hugging her, or like fairy type monsters, and yeah, like very
cool.
fantasy horror. Yeah,
Yeah, she
love
sells
that.
some of her prints too on her
Yeah.
Instagram.
Very cool.
Is she? I need that. I
It's
need to
got a
like. I
good
need
vibe.
like the original. Like I like want to like hang
oh
it.
yeah, I can email it to you. You can get it printed. Oh my god, yeah,
That'd be cool.
Yes.
that'd be cool.
I'm literally gonna hang it in my room.
Great.
I don't know if I'd want it.
I was just thinking that I didn't want to say it.
You don't know what's
Just
in
to
my
be
brain.
honest.
This is like
That's fine.
that's child's play. I'm like I have
That's
to live
totally
with
cool.
this. My own thoughts.
Each their own. I'm looking at the. You can't see on this podcast, but I'm looking at the thumbnail for this thing, and at the top here, there's like there's quite a few laurels on there. The whole top of the screen is covered with laurels.
Fun fact:
So
Matt's mom's name is Laurel.
what? So
I just had to. Come on, I haven't said anything.
so it's just the laurels are in your
Nice.
blood, as it were.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that there's so many on here. But it looks like you took it through a lot of festival circuits.
yeah.
to a lot of genre festival type stuff.
It had an interesting run. It was like, it's so hard to be like separate yourself from the movie and like watch it objectively as the writer director, and I think probably for you as the actor and anyone involved with it, I think it's probably really hard to like
Sure,
step
it's a
away
different thing.
and see what people see in it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
might be impossible.
I have like the opposite effect. Like I'm very critical. So
Well, I'm super critical.
So when I see it, I'm
Yeah.
like, I think this is really good, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because I'm so critical. Like it's good, and people are gonna like it, but you're still like, oh, are they gonna notice that, or are they gonna notice this? You
I
always
just see
your
everything
mistakes.
that's wrong with it.
See, I'm the
Yeah.
same. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is like, I mean, you never know what an audience is going to like or not like. So even if you feel like you made a perfect gem of a masterpiece that you couldn't do any better, doesn't mean that people aren't going to be like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So, at
Yeah,
the
the
end of
festival
day,
run was
you don't
super
know.
weird on this one. It was like, I thought when we were making this, so Last One Screaming, I'd submitted it to a ton of horror festivals, and it got into a lot of stuff, but it also got like rejected from stuff I was like, oh, I'm sure it would get into this, and I was like, maybe it wasn't just like straight horror enough. It was because it was really like meta horror and had that kind of slight comedy element to it, and I was like, all right, I think this one's going to get into like a lot of these festivals, and then it actually didn't get into some of the same festivals that Last One Screaming got into, but then got into other festivals, got into a few of the same festivals, but it was like either a hit or a miss reception on it. Like people either emailed me from festivals and were like, I love this film, or it got denied, and it got denied by a lot more places than I thought it was gonna. But then putting it out on the internet, it's like all I've heard is people being like, I love this.
Interesting.
I think it's really campy. So when it's like because I've programmed a festival before, festival programmers watch maybe the first minute, and they're like, okay, I don't think this film takes a minute to understand because it is campy. Like the track is very campy. So I think like people might have been turned off by the fact they didn't understand it immediately and just kind of gone to the next one. I think that's the only reason why it was denied by anything, because it's such an amazing film. But it's one of those things where you actually have to give it a moment, and festival programmers don't have that kind of time, or they don't give their time, which sucks. But I think that's most likely what happened because it's an amazing film.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. I can't make heads or tails of it, and you can tell that it's sort of can be a racket sometimes when you see how many people are are willing to take your money to help you get things into festivals or help you decide which festivals. But I like the cynic in me wonders. It's just like, maybe I just send it into and a person watches it on the wrong day and they're just like not into
That
it.
is,
Like
or it's like the last one of the day.
You know, has nothing to do with it, but it happens to get rejected from that festival. So,
but it did
tend to
play.
take it with a grain of
Yeah,
salt.
talk about some of the cool places we
It
went,
did,
because I went
yeah.
for the ride and it was fun.
Yeah, we at least talked to the one where all four of us were at.
Yeah,
at a
right?
festival
And we walked the
together.
red carpet.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was fun.
That was really
Good.
cool to walk the red carpet. We interviewed for this film.
Yeah,
and I
at
just-
LA Live Film
Yeah.
Fest. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
cool. That
and
was
Getty
at the
was
Staples
there.
Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
I
big-
cut a bunch of photos on my phone now from Getty Images.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they sent me a link or whatever.
That was, I mean, that's like the cool. Who gives a shit about the other ones? I'm like, at least we. I'm like, that's all
I do.
we
I'm like,
needed.
I just want to get into like the most hardcore horror
Yeah.
film festivals.
Sure,
But
right?
yeah, that one's probably better for our careers.
It 100% is. Like this, that was like it's like a career changer. It gets you on the map. Like a lot of really like cool people were there, and to be
Interesting.
That's how we
And
met
the-
Candace that wrote Jana's
Yeah,
film,
that's
was at that
right.
festival.
Yeah, we met our writer for No Heartbeat.
Wait, that was
That was in the
Met
Step and
at
Repeat.
the Step and Repeat,
She came
yeah.
up and started asking us some questions, and we started
okay.
talking about Assorted Kinds, and she thought it was really cool. And I was like, "Why are you here?"
I
And
didn't
she
know that
submitted
that
her
was the
script.
conversation.
Yeah,
that was happening.
she won Best Screenplay.
Yeah, she won Best Short
Okay.
Screenplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She
So-
found
for
out on the
her,
plane
yeah.
home. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
So yeah, I knew I wanted to work with her. But anyway, that's
Dang.
down the road for another
Yeah.
podcast.
But it just goes to show you, like, how all these stories kind of connect each other.
well, and how her and I both went to
Yeah.
KSU, which is
Right.
freaking
Yeah.
weird.
That is crazy.
small world.
Small world.
It's nuts.
Even though I was only there for a year, and then I was like, "Fuck this! I'm going to art school." No, thank
Get me
you.
out of the heat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but we went to Santa Clarita.
Yeah, Horror House in
That
Santa
was
Clarita. That was
super
a really
rad.
good festival.
They were so nice
They're
there.
the best.
They were great. I really like them.
Yeah,
a
that's
lot.
one of my favorite like LA local horror festivals that we've gotten into. And then second year in a row we got to go to New York City Horror Film
BFFs.
Festival, which
Oh, that's cool.
was at Cineopolis in Chelsea in like a massive brand new theater, and they actually gave us the top spot for a short film, which is wild because there were so many good short films.
I love
Right.
that.
But they premiered us. Every year they do a Lifetime Achievement Award for a horror legend, and they gave Greg Nicotero, who's an executive producer and director on Walking Dead, and also is like he's just a effects makeup legend.
He's the dude.
Right.
He's done everything.
Shit.
They gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award, and they played Feed Me Death as the only short film they played during that block.
What?
So they played
Yeah.
Feed Me Death,
Oh,
a
dang.
feature, and they gave Greg his award.
That's amazing. I feel like that's
so
like one of the
cool.
best things you could have happen to a film short when you're like in a block of like 12 shorts. It's like you have no hope of people remembering yours among all the other ones.
It was cool.
That's kind of awesome.
I remember when it played, like there was we were like somewhere in the middle of the theater. They like had me stand up and like say hi because they weren't going to do Q&A most of the time, but they didn't do Q&A for that block because they were going to give Greg his award. So they're like, Matt, stand up, like everyone, this is Matt, his film's playing, and like I don't know, 100 something people.
Yeah.
Dang, that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. And then like watching the film with an audience that big was rad because you got to see all the reactions and
I'm
like
so pissed I missed it.
the guy right in front of us, like after the credits rolled, like sitting back in his seat, just started clapping both hands over his head, like yeah!
Oh my god,
really
I love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, I wish
It's
I was
always
there.
such a great time there. Those people are amazing.
Yeah,
I
we've
definitely
made some
wanna go
really
back.
good friends at that
Yeah,
festival.
That's
we've met a
awesome.
lot of Dave Yohe. We met.
He's part of Assorted Kinds now, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Kevin. Yeah,
Kevin
those
Sluter,
guys are
yeah.
great.
And
Yeah,
his wife.
definitely
Yeah.
great films.
Very cool. And then the last thing I guess we should touch on is that this is not the last we're hearing of Feed Me Death. Maybe there's
There is a
there's
feature.
a feature in the works now.
Done a
There's
bunch of drafts.
script in the works, I should
and I
say.
keep ripping it apart and starting over.
Oh, you writer.
And I'm like waiting. I'm like, just give me the finish.
Yeah,
Like,
Olivia did
damn.
read it and gave me a bunch of really good feedback, which is
Awesome.
good.
Thank
I bet.
you.
And so I met with our friend Dave Yohe, who's part of Assorted Kinds.
He's
Is
the
a-
script whisperer.
He totally is. Is like
Oh, interesting.
so he told me everything that I needed to hear about like basically everything that I'm like, is this wrong with it? Because I think it might be wrong with it. He was like, yeah, it's wrong. You need to delete all of that.
Oh, man. Well, finding out what's wrong is like the
but it's
easy
good.
thing,
We're
but figuring
working
out what
through
to
it.
do next, like how to
But it's
fix it, is the hard part.
Totally. But the good thing is through this process and through like the support of Assorted Kinds and Olivia and everyone, Jana and everyone else who's read this thing and given me feedback is like I have been able to keep progressively making it better. And you know, one of these days I'll get it to where it needs to be, and we'll shoot the damn thing.
When is one of these days?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
That's the weird
I'm
thing.
like-
I mean, you talk to some
Yeah.
people and they're just developing and developing like forever, and then like on a dime, all of a sudden they're just
They'll
like,
have it.
we're gonna shoot it in a week or something.
But
like that.
also-
So
Yeah.
you never know.
This
You
is
just
like
gotta-
the prime time for horror. I mean, horror is almost kind of, it's like taken over the world all of a sudden. Like this past year, or I mean, it's just like it. I think they doubled in distribution and production of horror films. Like it literally just skyrocketed out of the
Yeah.
blue. And so I'm like, this is like prime time. Like you're gonna get your shit made way quicker. Like this, like people are gonna have more eyes on it this year. Like this is the time for
Yeah.
horror.
It's very interesting that horror movies seem to be making money at any scale.
Oh, hell
whether
yeah.
it's a very low scale, like what do you call it? That comes at night, those sorts of things, or even on a much larger scale, where you have things like The
Anything
Quiet
Blumhouse?
Place that like
Yeah.
now has a sequel because it did so well, and it was
that
pretty,
was brilliant.
pretty low scale, mostly actor oriented, not about and then it is like on the huge end of things.
Gary, we gotta.
Yeah.
I gotta call him.
Jana knows the guy, Gary Delverman.
I used to
that
work with
wrote
him.
that.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
just for a couple months. He's the nicest guy
I
ever.
wrote one or two. All of them.
And he wrote The Conjuring
he's-
series.
Oh, I
love The
and, like,
Conjuring.
he didn't write The Conjuring
Wow.
itself. I think he was like an associate producer or something on that, if I
He's just
remember.
the
But he
best
wrote
guy.
all the Annabelle movies and The Nun, and yeah.
Man.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully let's get it done this year. Like I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
I might have some people that might be, interested in,
Yeah.
I don't know, helping out
Nice.
and getting it made. And obviously, I would love to play play
Absolutely.
Casey again. I mean, that would be a dream. Doing anything that dark is a nice escape. It's actually an escape from like my own head. I'm like, no, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, let's make it happen.
I agree.
Just got to put pen to paper again.
Do it, or
a
else I'm
deal.
gonna.
I'm writing something else right now.
Jana, get on them.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna redo the bed or the bedroom or something else in the house. So he's gonna be like, nope, can't do that because I have to write the feature.
Yep.
That's what always ends up happening.
I have this other
Yeah.
one that I'm like, I want to get out of my head quickly and then go back to that and fix that one, and then we shall push forward.
There you go.
Is it a feature?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
love it.
Olivia, what are you working on now? It's been a while since we've seen you, but what are you working on currently?
So I just wrapped Incision, I guess, 3 weeks ago, which is a horror film about a psychotic doctor, and I am married to him. And it's funny because they casted actors that are also mega influencers. So it's going to theaters. It comes out in October, right before Halloween.
Ooh.
Very, very excited about it. The
Interesting,
cast,
yeah.
I mean, every person had, I think, 1 million or over
Right.
followers, but me. I was the
Right.
only one that did it, and I was a direct offer, and I was literally just like, this is, I don't know why or how, but thank you,
Well,
God.
you got to round it out. You can't
great.
just have them all be influencers. You
Right,
need to have,
right.
Like,
But
a
they were
rounded
actually really good
cast.
actors too, you know.
Yeah.
But it was funny because, but it's a good film. I don't want to give anything away, but I definitely play a psychotic wife. And then I'm about to shoot a pilot, a pilot where it's really, really cool. A woman who worked as a prostitute her whole life actually went undercover for the FBI and uncovered the largest sex child trafficking ring in America.
Holy
Gotcha.
shit.
And it is a
Interesting.
true story, and Josh Anthony has the rights, and he found me through another actor and offered me the lead role of Nita. So I'm actually
Yes.
speaking with Nita. We've been corresponding, and we're shooting that in April.
Oh my
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
So
Can
it's
I
a really
come work on the weekend?
I would no. Oh, so I actually believe it or not, I mentioned Assorted Kinds, and I said I don't know if they do things outside of their own directing, but if they, I said I'm actually speaking with them tonight because I got off the phone with him right before I got here, and I was like, Assorted Kinds is this great group, and they're kind of like they all know each other, and they might be willing to kind of I don't know, work with you. And he's like, I'm open to that. Like I want to do it for a lower scale than he doesn't want to get involved with like a lot production. Like he just wants to keep it non-union and keep it low budget. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I'm also
Very cool.
shooting a feature film with Torkel Knudsen, who was the writer and director of Naked, which was starring Marlon Wayans on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm shooting his movie actually in April too. So they're at the same
You're gonna be
time.
busy.
Wow, good thing we saw you
Yeah.
before we don't see you.
Yeah,
Jeez.
really busy, but I will make time for you guys always.
Aw.
You know that I'm like put me in another freaking. I want to do another film.
exactly,
Like
yeah.
okay, like where's the next one? I'm ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And where can people find you online? Do you have any?
Yeah, I have
places online?
Instagram, Olivia Riley Day.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And Matt?
Yeah,
where
I'm on the
you
Instagram with it's DevoCam, all one word, DEVOCAM, and then on Twitter just at Matt Devino, and yeah.
Awesome.
Jana?
And Jana, where can we find you?
Where can we find the latest No Heartbeat news?
I'm on
That's right.
Instagram at Banana Mama Jana. It's a lot. Just follow DevoCam and I'm like top on the list.
There you go. It's all connected. And we will soon be talking with you back here soon because you've directed your own thing.
Very soon.
Was it just last week?
Yeah,
my
last 2
gosh.
weeks ago. No
so
heartbeat.
So that's going to go into post-production and we'll be having you back on the show
Chatting
soon.
soon. Woohoo.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Yay.
having us, Kevin.
Yes, thanks for coming, guys. And
Thank
you can
you
always
so
find
much.
us and our podcasts wherever you find podcasts at the Assorted Kinds podcast. And you can find all of our shorts at assortedkinds.com. We're all over the social medias. Just look up at Assorted Kinds. I don't know, on Instagram,
Everything.
Twitter. We're on all the major things.
Facebooks.
And we're on the Facebook.
Friendsters.
Check us out, Assorted Kinds. Thank you guys so much for coming.
thanks for breaking my
Thanks.
podcast, Cherry.
That's right. We're the first.
It's a good time. Thank you.
Nick.